Y'all get through, I'm going to the motherfucking train. Perfect random.
It seems this was safe advice.
The Lawrence Livermore labs got a reaction they did not expect. Their experiment blew up.
But the hydrogen gas apparently caused a small explosion. It sent shards of glass all over the lab. North Carolina State University scientists
And Fleischman had given some friends at Power Labs an early head start. He'd been shipping them some of their cold fusion cells to Mark for one measure. He wanted to use one UK lab to get a head start, so the US didn't get all the credit. It's around this time when the criticism started. So far, the best source.
Bitch, that's what you get for fucking running up, bitch. Fuck you. I got gyro aim on, ho. What you thought this was?
To replicate the experiment, or trying to get the details out of newspapers.
They ain't playing on this level.
This whole situation was bizarre. Why had the press conference come before a peer-reviewed paper? For many people, that was a major faux pas.
Well, I'm not aware that we did anything at all wrong.
Let him crawl, let him crawl, let him crawl.
Say that papers have been accepted anywhere?
Pons and Fleischman had in fact submitted their paper a couple weeks earlier.
Let him crawl, let him crawl, let him crawl.
And although it hadn't been published yet, it had been accepted. Where this gets iffy,
I'm sorry, I know he's calling to his team. This dude's gonna fucking kill him.
Pons received an unrelated call from a friend who was an editor at the journal. Pons and Fleischman had published
There's all the good
friend of the man's editor, Robert Parsons. Parsons, upon hearing that his friends may have the discovery of the century, and they had a tight deadline, told Pons that it would push it to be published as soon as possible. Parsons was the only person to review the paper. Pons and Fleischman had also sent a paper to the much more prestigious Nature, but they had refused to publish it without a much more careful review. There's more about the story later. The paper was eventually published on April 8th. But the preprint leaked a little earlier. Pons had given 5 copies to friends in Utah. These were quickly faxed and copied across the entire world so many times that most of the text quickly became unreadable, except of course for the massive stamp that read. But even this paper was only 8 pages and had little new that people didn't already know. The assumption many were working on was that Pons and Fleischman were intentionally withholding details because of patent concerns. Some people even speculated that the cells they showed off on TV were dummies, and that deep in their basement lab, they had the real heavy-duty cells. The press release given to the media by U.S. was also given many Pam Broder, the school's comms director, later said that she was actually forced to remove sentences at the request from the university's legal teams, which she and yes, that was teams plural. She noted that there were 3 separate groups of high-powered lawyers, ones from the East Coast, West Coast, and Texas. She had wanted to speak to Pons and Fleischman well in advance, but had only been allowed to just days before, leaving her no time to research.
Gyro prevails yet again.
Despite this, at least 3 reporters have managed to to guarantee coverage from the journal tells him it's room temperature fusion. Despite the skepticism,
That fucking gyro, let's go.
This story is a major deal.
50-meter headshot, 30-meter headshot. I'll beam him from anywhere.
Thing you expect to see in a financial paper. Jerry Bishop's coverage of cold fusion is some of the most in-depth in the traditional media sphere. He will later win a science writing award from the AIP. However, it should be noted that his award ceremony will also be boycotted by many physicists. They found his reporting misleading and often one-sided. Some experts credit Jerry Bishop with popularizing the name cold fusion, because as you see in the press release, Pons and Fleischman called their discovery N-fusion. Jerry Bishop did not come up with the term cold fusion on his own, however, and you'll find out who did a little later on. Nothing was conventional about cold fusion, and it was only going to get weirder from here. By mid-April, the first reports from other labs began to roll in. Pons and Fleischman had set the precedent that if you had a result, you were fine to hold a press conference before you even had a paper published. And that's what many of these labs did. Called in the media, put on their best suits, and got their 15 minutes of fame. It's rare for scientists to get on TV, and this might be their only chance.
Oh, they're done. They're done. They're done.
Tried to confirm the Utah experiment.
They're done. They're done.
God man, of course, as soon as I fucking pee after another, they will drop a fucking lid out.
We are putting in. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe it.
But then another announcement from another school, Georgia Tech. Researchers there duplicated the Utah experiment.
And this weekend, two Hungarian researchers say
The University of Washington.
Italian news report, Stanford researchers today.
Two Mexican scientists say government project in India.
researchers at the University of Florida are said today
The University of Minnesota.
The Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico.
Incidentally, this brings to more than 60 the number of laboratories that have confirmed at least part of the Utah experiment.
Over the next few weeks, Hans and Fleischman will be traveling non-stop.
Oh, what the fuck?
Harwell in the UK,
Got me, Trey.
and now CERN in Switzerland.
Alright.
Filling auditoriums beyond capacity each time. Hans was just as in demand. He had given talks
I got
Just because you're not using that motion aim.
Yeah,
Oh
I
shit.
still got team. Yeah, two people shooting at me.
Violated.
Too many targets need to do it, yes, do it.
For a chemist like Hans, there was no bigger stage than the American chemical stage. They had scheduled a meeting
And you think you're good? What remedy you
They
rolling up?
booked out a basketball stadium, and early registration suggested
Hold
that
on.
chemists all across the country
Hold
would
on.
swarm the
That's all I ever do. Hold
Has been
on.
escorted around Dallas, much the way you would escort around a presidential candidate or even a president himself. Incredible for a country that seventh game in the playoffs.
Damn it, bro.
I'll tell you one thing, it was quite a day.
first day of the conference. The arena has 7,000 people.
Bro,
Fuck
put
is this
my fucking
motherfucker,
gun.
bro?
Call this event the Woodstock of chemistry.
I gotta find that guy. He took my fucking guns.
Own Woodstock event.
That was my lid I was dropping, dick.
When a group had found evidence of high-temperature superconductors, that work had won its discoverers the Nobel Prize.
I fucking thought that my teammate got killed by him.
Physics.
Wait, what happened?
Oh, the dude took the fucking guns. My teammate got killed by him. I found my guns.
It's because you're not using that gyro. Simple solution.
Although intended as a lighthearted
So I got my guns. I got my guns back. I wouldn't kill the fucking person who killed me to take them.
still extremely pessimistic. Many of them had ties to traditional hot fusion research,
Big God, our teammate sucks a dick, or I would not have gotten that kill.
and so they have
Sorry, we don't need teammates.
energy in the room.
Huh?
was electric.
So we don't need teammates. As long as you and me are in the game, we're good.
He takes a moment to announce.
Well, I've been getting, fuck, I got the end of it, I got like 3-4 doubles back to back to back. This right now.
I like dropping into it solo.
I did, I was running on him and dropped on solo.
History is remade during the event itself. As for Peter,
Nah, it scared the
clearly
fuck
much
out
more
of me.
comfortable now than he was in Utah. He opens with a joke.
Don't run up on me like that. I'll hit every shot, bro. What do y'all think this is?
What happened?
Talk is just him going
I just beamed the dude that ran up on me. That's the only thing that could happen.
There's a photograph of the U1 Utah tokamak.
There's 9 people left. Like,
It's a clear
they're in
yes.
trouble.
Hot fusion tokamaks are the size
They
of
better
a
disperse.
and weigh tons.
See, I got my lighter.
Can sit in
They
a
better
tumbler.
disperse quickly.
I got
The applause he gets at the end is what you'd expect a rock star to get at a concert. Thank you very much. During the Q&A, one of the audience members asked Hans a question. Prometheus,
I'll do it with the horse, just cause. Like,
3 options for how this could turn out. Was this like stealing fire from the
I'm hoping
gods?
for some good
Was
kills
it
at the end of the
like a
game.
curse upon mankind that could not be undone? Or was it simply a hoax?
Cause I mean, I got
Hans' response.
6 kills, but I really ain't good shit.
Meanwhile,
Like,
Hans and
you
Blake
know.
were not the only 2 who'd had a busy couple weeks. Chase Peterson, not wanting to waste the momentum of the publicity,
I ain't
alright,
good.
now we're good. Now we're good.
personally visited the Utah governor at the vacation house. The
you
government
changed the
Now
order.
they are
for
fucked.
pleasantries and asked them
Certified,
point blank how much
guaranteed.
money they wanted. When they say around 2 or 3 million, he hits back with 5.
Alright, let's just
We will
wait for
hold
them
a
to fucking
special session
pop
of the
up.
legislature with one
They
item
will.
on the agenda. That item will be to deal with the $5 million appropriation.
The state senator, Eldon Money, even suggested a proposal where Utah residents could donate to the research and receive tax cuts in return.
Some believe it will do for Utah what gambling.
Oh, where they at? Where they at?
With so much money coming in, who needs taxes?
The results show that 60% of those who called thought taxpayers should pay for the research.
What's going on? What's going on?
Said no, taxpayers should not.
On April 7th, the Utah legislature will vote 97-3 to approve the $5 million.
But it's kind of like politics. They're certainly generating a lot of heat.
During the session, the governor paraphrased the Bible when expressing his support. He could do with nothing that was
It's right there.
and I don't want to be there. This was an energy source so plentiful it would be, quote, too...
It's a whole team, it's a whole team. Don't push, don't push, don't push. Don't push. I got you covered, don't push.
Although almost
Fuck it, push. He pushed directly into the scrum of the whole team, bro.
Where are they?
They're over here, Jay.
Oh,
I'm
holding it down. POP. Oh, I see him. I'll mount on their ass.
This appointment would not
I'll get him from a distance.
but it did show just how much interest was being generated. The eventual name would be the National Cold Fusion Institute. Of course, looking at that name, it implies at least some sort of collaboration with the rest of the country. Washington was absolutely paying attention to cold fusion, and things were already in motion.
Some of your squads outside the safe zone.
On April 13th, Glenn Seaborg got a phone call from a California diner. It's from Washington. He needs to take a flight there because it's urgent. This is not the first time he's done it. He's a well-respected veteran in nuclear science. In a few years, he'll get a
Alright, where they want to pop up? All the way over there? Fine.
a personal scientific advisor and George Bush
This is what they're gonna do to
Not
me,
too
huh?
soon.
on cold fusion. When he gets there,
Yeah, no, we love to play. It's a team versus half a team. So
his honest opinion. This wasn't
There wasn't enough evidence there to convince me, and not convinced everybody knows about it. Nearly everybody is talking about it, but most of the people I've talked to are not.
pushing me down here, down here.
I got their ass.
No, it's here. She's pushing. She's right on the guy.
In
Like
order
that.
to evaluate this, you need to do it slowly.
Fuck.
Make a panel, have them visit the labs, and write a big report. Don't rush it out. Secretary
It's you and another team member.
I know, it's
you and two other people.
they're right below me. Shit. I don't know. He's on that building. Damn. Camping little bitch ass.
We got pinned down. It's good, though. Fuck it. Come back stronger next time.
And a Utah project. And I think we ought to jump right on it and not let
And let's go to shots of the 3 running across. That probably, this probably would distract all the attention.
We'd like to have both opportunities.
In the House, the Science, Space, and Technology Committee participated in the was one of the largest committees in the House, and that day was
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Why you wait for them to watch it? Why you make us watch this?
Has permeated the scientific community as startling possibilities for sustained nuclear fusion reactions at room temperature have emerged. Potential implications of a scientific breakthrough that can produce cold fusion are, at the least,
That was like up there when they were running across. There was that rat shit in the fucking lead that killed me.
Do resurgence duos.
Fusion energy.
Alright, go. Perfect.
Teamwork.
Well on the foot.
Called cold fusion is nothing less than a miracle.
Later, he would make plans for a trip with his fellow committee members to go visit U of U and see cold fusion with their own eyes. The first guest to speak is Stanley Potts, clearly quite humbled and honored to be speaking in Congress.
The one thing about those microphones is they're not very good, so you have to pull them closer.
Okay, thank you very much. Chairman, first we would like to thank you and the committee for the opportunity to testify here today.
He starts us off with a fairly in-depth explanation of the nitty-gritty technical details. He has a slideshow that lasts for nearly 15 minutes. Fleischman is up next and does what he does best, giving a digestible big-picture view and speculates about how this could be applied. Notably, he says something interesting.
Now, the experiment which Professor Pons has described to you is superficially simple, but is actually quite difficult to carry out because you have to go through a process of optimizing the experiment such that you will make a significant observation.
This is in contrast to the initial press conference, where he said it was, and I quote, very simple. Although most of the politicians in attendance were enraptured, some of them asked the occasional tough question.
I must say, Mr. Chairman, the process so far by which we've learned about this has been more confusion than cold fusion. And there seems to be a feeling about that the process has been more driven by a wish to protect future potential profits than it has been adherence to normal peer review processes. The public release of the information.
Are you in the same game as me?
In the journal, and the fact that the lack of data seems to have inhibited the replication of your results in most cases where it's been done.
In chemistry, it is generally the situation that when you have submitted a paper and the paper is accepted, which was the case in our case, then it is okay to make an announcement. But the problem we've had is businesses don't do things exactly the same way.
Pons is correct in saying that the paper was accepted, but he's not being entirely honest here about the peer review. And as for the lack of experimental details, Fleischman hits back with this.
We admit that there were not the experimental details there, but in a preliminary note there never are these experimental details, and we do now have fax machines and telephones which would allow people to request them. Those that have, we have given them that advice and reject that particular criticism.
Indeed, many scientists have been calling the two men non-stop details. However, lucky for one of their close friends to actually get a response. Fleischman plays the diplomat very well. He makes it
Alright, good job. Good job what you want to.
Alright, I'll come over there.
Nah, coming in.
I'm
going inside of this bitch, actually.
Together, they made their Hail Mary pitch to all 42 members of the committee, who listened intently.
The figure that comes to mind is $25 million from the federal government. Maybe that needs to be $125 million someday, but that's not any important right now. $25 million would allow us to start with state and private sources.
See, look, you gotta go with that gyro. Look at that. Look at that movement. It's beautiful.
That is a big ask. Peterson also, in vague terms,
No, it's because I listen to you. Not I ain't gonna lie to moving this pretty screen. I just feel like it's your fault. I feel like it's fucking you.
Once you get, you gotta learn how to use it, obviously, but like once you learn how to use it, you're like, you can get like this, and then you got an advantage over everybody because none of the guns have recoil. Aim assist turns off because you can just point and shoot. I'd rather put every single shot inside of somebody than fucking rely on aim assist.
You know, we have consulted in Japan, we've consulted with Japanese companies, and in the past.
Someone's getting ready to come in. I can hear him.
The Japanese are now devoting to this.
I can hear him. I can hear him.
Discovery, even before they've replicated.
This was an existential threat that meant they had to act
now
to fend it off. The
That's not.
was 5 hours long. And
I just came in.
As the University of Utah group departed, so did many of its representatives. Most of them simply don't want to stay to listen to monthly skeptical witnesses. Of the other speakers that day, by far the most interesting was the group from Brigham Young University. The rival school to the University of Utah was 40 miles down the road. And representing them was a very soft-spoken physicist named Stephen Jones. And he was singing a very different tune than Pons and Fleischman. He didn't think that cold fusion was worth dumping millions into. At least not yet. He had even brought along a prop to help him explain.
Now this is a tender shoot, as you can tell. It is difficult to say what it will become. Some think and suggest strongly that this is a tree. And it will
I've not seen that. So.
provide us enough wood for all our energy needs for generations. I do not think it is. I think adding too much fertilizer at this stage will be detrimental. I think we need to give it time, at least a couple of months free, to see whether this situation is a rose or a tree. If it should turn out to be a rose, we can really admire it for its beauty, even if we are a bit disappointed it was not a tree.
And by that he meant, this is a new, unexplored bit of physics. And that is worth studying. In a miracle energy source, this was not. To hammer home the point, he made a comparison that politicians could easily understand.
On the other hand, I heard Mr. Jones say that the difference between that experiment and commercial productivity was the difference between $1 and the national debt.
They just been asked for $25 million.
Stuff on this fucking wood.
Who even is Stephen Jones? Well, Stephen Jones is the reason any of this is happening at all. What he isn't telling the committee here is that he feels Congress have fucked him up. Because what he's claiming is that he is being victor of cold fusion.
Yeah, Doug's coming for you.
Squad mates redeploying. Well done.
Got his ass.
Hey, like right now. Early, Nebula is the creator-owned streaming service that creators annually. They can watch my videos and many more completely ad-free. Not only do I post my videos 2 weeks early there, but you can find dozens of Nebula originals not found anywhere else. Speaking of which, I'm very excited to announce that I'm directing a feature-length documentary. By far my biggest project yet. It covers one of the most famous controversies in American science. We've been flying out on location to film interviews, I've commissioned some amazing art, and I'm even going to be working with a composer for the music. They will be releasing exclusively on Nebula in early 2025, and I can't wait for you to see it. Making documentaries is my full-time job, and the best way for you to support me is by signing up for Nebula using the link. With it, you'll get a 40% discount on an annual subscription, which works out to just $3 a month.
Oh my god.
A significant chunk of that money goes directly to me for as long as you're subscribed. It's about bringing you bigger and better.
Damn, I cracked him on this. How did that?
And many others. Thanks for watching.
Box of ammo.
I got your guns now. Oh, what a fucking mishap, dude. One doesn't have any fucking ammo for it.
He's just spent the better part of an hour speaking to a room full of politicians about his work in cold fusion. He comes off as like most professors at Purdue University, he's a devout nerd. Most of his colleagues know him to be trustworthy, honorable, some might even call him a Boy Scout. And it was almost certainly burning him up inside that for the past month, Stanley Pons and Martin Fleischman have been accusing him of stealing their work. Stanley Pons and Martin Fleischman are remembered as the fathers of cold fusion, for better or for worse. And that's because they went public in a now infamous press conference on March 23rd, 1989.
Nice.
They were asking Congress for $25 million. As Fleischman mentioned in their announcement, he and Pons had funded their experiment with $100K of their own money, and they had no other financial support. But what he didn't say is that in the year before they went public, they did try to get external funding. And that process
I didn't know that was just
resulted
in
in
that
a
kid.
leak, and is ultimately the reason they had went public an entire year and a half before they intended to. Through much of the 1980s, Pons had been funding his work through grants awarded by the Office of Naval Research. But when he approached him about his core fusion research, they didn't think it was a good fit. After some shuffling around, Pons resubmitted to the Office of Advanced Energy Projects at the Department of Energy. The office had a bit of a reputation as an office of experiment. Its administrator, Dr. Gaevsky, once called it the home of orphans and infants. What he meant by that was his office was the last chance for projects that was too crazy for other departments. Pie-in-the-sky pitches that still deserved at least a
Damn it, I need a gun. Fuck.
Gaevsky had a lot of
Shit.
in this office, and he liked to pick favorites. As it happened, one of his longest-running funding programs was for a professor at BYU, Stephen Jones. Jones was one of the experts in a niche area is a particle similar to muon. It's just 207 times as massive. A muon can replace an electron orbiting a nucleus of deuterium. Because a muon is so much heavier, its orbital radius is almost 200 times as small. This allows two atoms to sit much closer together.
Yeah, the fuck up on this roof.
Fire sales over. Adjusting prices.
Why is that? That's bullshit.
And it was submitted by Stanley Pons and Martin Fleischmann. Jones was intended to act as a neutral referee, one of five. The proposal was confidential. The cover specifically mentioned, quote, to use the information contained in the proposal for evaluation purposes only. You can probably guess where this is going. Later, members of BYU's legal team would release a detailed timeline of his research on fusion, supported by papers
I'm about to die under this water.
notebook.
BYU has documents such as these lab notebooks showing their work goes back to at least 1986.
And if you watch his
I got stuck under water.
Congress, he will hammer home the point that he's been working on this for years.
Deuterium into metals is going to be early 86. I should say, by the way, that this has been funded by the same Advanced Energy Projects, this particular idea of fusion since 86. We pioneered that in May of 86.
Jones has claimed that while his primary focus is
there wasn't anybody over there. I was just over there. I just died in the water.
working on more traditional
What's this dude doing?
like that
Don't worry about it.
Fleischmann, even before he saw the proposal.
Shit, there's nothing over
And
there.
this is technically
The
true.
buy box is right there. You can use it still.
I don't have enough.
Had a chance run-in with a geophysicist.
Oh shit, I didn't realize you were afraid.
Who had an idea that fusion can take place
Goddamn, there ain't shit, dude.
via extreme pressure. They began to spitball the idea of
Hopefully you
piezoneutral
get a
pressure.
kill.
Piezo means
Take a few
pressure.
times that way.
In a memo dated April 1st, 1986, Jones wrote, "Could it be that metal hydrides provide an environment conducive to confinement and fusion of hydrogen isotopes?" And on April 7th, Jones, although he never actually uses the word electrolysis, he does
I say
write
just
down
link
several
with it.
different
Just write it
metals.
out.
Among them is palladium. In one of his annual updates to Gaevsky, he mentioned this piezonuclear fusion method. Two of Jones's graduate students, in May 1986, were doing experiments where they would load hydrogen into metals.
You can use that bomb drone you got.
Whole team camping on those fucking stairs. Bitches, pussy bitches.
The most they got out of it was 2 term papers. And so, If we want to be lawyers about it, Jones's group did, independent from Pons and Fleischmann, come up with a cold fusion concept as early as 1986, but this soon put the idea on a 2-year-long hiatus. Jones's later explanation for the hiatus is that they were waiting on a colleague to build an ultra-sensitive detector that would allow them to continue the experiments. This detector was indeed finished around August of 1988, and we know from Jones's own notebook that he assembled his team for a meeting on August 24th, and they discussed restarting the fusion project. But then, and this is where it gets a little suspect, his notebook has a 29-day gap where he does not mention the fusion project. And then finally, he notes on September 20th that he received the Pons and Fleischmann proposal from Gajewski. It is only after this point that his group begins to start up experiments again. The whole saga is full of coincidences both in timing and in location. What are the odds that it's 2 Utah labs, just 40 miles apart, that will be racing to unlock the secrets of fusion? What we do know for sure is that Jones and his team jumped into action only after they had read Pons and Fleischmann's proposal, at a time when his funding was on the verge of ending. And so, by late September, his group was starting up experiments, and Jones wrote back to Gajewski that the proposal should be rejected, or at least he needed some clarifications first. And so, he begins to write to them anonymously. To Pons and Fleischmann, here is an anonymous reviewer asking very basic questions, clearly of the opinion that this experiment won't work. Only when they had shared enough details for him to replicate the experiment in its entirety did he change his tune and give it the thumbs up. Pons and Fleischmann had managed to guess that the reviewer was Jones because one of his critiques was that they hadn't cited a 1986 paper by him. And then one day, Gajewski was calling to suggest that Jones had worked on some other stuff before, and maybe worked out a collaboration. From the perspective of Pons and Fleischmann, this was outrageous. Pons had refused to talk about the project with anyone except Fleischmann or their family for years, and now as soon as they submitted grant applications, they have physically recorded themselves on the paper. Although Pons and Jones have a friendly phone conversation, deep down Pons feels Pons tells the patent officer at U of U that they may have a legal dispute on their hands, and he makes a call to a childhood friend, Gary Triggs, who lived with Pons in North Carolina. He was a charming country lawyer who was not
Playtime's over. Stand by for deployment to
One
the
of
war
the things
zone.
Jones once again heat up, Pons had Triggs flying to town to help him re-strategize. Triggs also acted as a confusion, Pons had used Triggs as an attack dog to use online. In these prior collaborations involving gas chemical and synthesizers, used Pons as a resource. When those companies couldn't agree
Survive to redeploy fallen teammates. Kill to bring them back faster.
You wanna go to Castle?
Don't matter.
Alright, go to Castle. Alright.
They start to become paranoid. Both groups escalate the issue to the heads of the respective schools. Both the U of U and BYU administrations take over the negotiations. They arrange for sit-down talks. The U of U team visits BYU and tour the lab on February 23rd. Jones's team is impressed with how well Pons and Fleischmann's cells are, and Pons and Fleischmann are impressed by BYU's radiation detector. So Jones knows that he's been asked to
Supply box UAV is inbound.
Pons and Fleischmann beg him for 18 more months. They need more time. But Jones says he can't wait. He agrees to cancel a talk later that week, but he's been studying the American Physical Society. Can't you present something else, they asked him? No, because he can't. He already submitted an abstract, and in it, he mentions cold fusion. He's given them a no. The final negotiation is an agreement to publish back-to-back submissions to the same meeting. After some debate, they agree on nature, one of the most prestigious in the world. At the end of the meeting, both sides shook hands.
Shit, I did not mean to jump.
Nothing written had cemented the deal. Neither side was happy, and any pleasantries were just performances. Reportedly, by the time Pons and Fleischman had walked back to their cars, they were calling Jones a thief. What if one of the papers got rejected and the other accepted? That paper would get out credit. They believe there was only the nuclear option. Go public immediately.
BYU fusion researcher Stephen Jones says the U reached an agreement with Brigham Young University by announcing its fusion discovery to the media last month. Jones says the two universities had agreed to announce their separate findings simultaneously.
There was no commitment, no promise of any sort that we wouldn't go public.
Around March 13th, Jones gets the feeling that Pons and Fleischman are going to screw him over. He phones them, and they tell him something that on March 23rd, without any heads-up, to BYU. At the press conference, a reporter asks if they are aware of any other groups doing similar work. VP of Research, James Brophy, takes over. He says he wasn't aware of any other group, something he knows for a fact.
And with fusion coming to the forefront, the big rivalry between BYU and the University of Utah is no longer over football.
Okay, so now what's the deal here? Is it because somebody stole it? No, BYU says that we were together and that he came out first so he would get all the publicity. Imagine that.
Fleischman and Pons will go on to say many years later that they did not name the discovery cold fusion, that it was Steve Jones who was responsible for that. A couple weeks later, literally, Fleischman and Jones will have a private conversation in the hall. Reportedly,
Trash guns in every box.
They put that cat back in the bag. By going public early, they had doomed their careers.
Well, I really think should be some guns in the hall. That's the case.
Jones is furious, but he feels a sense of relief at the same time. Knowing he's been betrayed, God is waiting for his
Oh shit, we about to get stuck in this bitch. God damn it.
They mail the paper to Nature as soon as possible.
We're about to get stuck in
No
it.
one from his team will be
No, we're not. We're good.
March 24th. And that leads us back to where we started. Marvin Hawkins, Pons' PhD student, clutching an envelope in a FedEx. The TV crew is there to film a meeting that won't be taking place. Hawkins' name didn't make it in the history books the same way Pons and Fleischman's did. He's not a protagonist, but his story is still worth telling. Marvin Hawkins was 27. In the fall of '88, he pretty much wrapped up with his PhD work. The only thing left was his graduate was to write his thesis. If he focused on writing, he'd be able to finish it. It was in his best interest to try and get it done sooner rather than later, because, after all, he was the sole source of income for a family of 5. He had taken a 2-year break from school for his Mormon missionary, so he was a bit behind his academic peers. He needed a decent income. But in October of 1989, Stanley Pons, chair of chemistry, approached him with an offer. He was working on...
Are you that one behind that train?
Shut the fuck up.
No, keep that same energy, nigga!
Fucking shoot me from underneath. Water goddamn.
No, you want that energy here. Get this energy then. Bitch ass nigga?
Be vigilant.
I'm getting lit the fuck up underneath this water.
Come up here. No, you ain't coming up there. Get your ass back down. Die, stupid ass nigga.
I'm pissed. Alright, you kicked the next drop, man. Cause I obviously don't pick the right fucking one. That's how I know shit lit or nothing.
I'm gonna go do some Black Ops for a little bit.
That's what you moving on to?
Huh?
That's what you're moving on to?
As January turned into February, it was clear to him that Pons' group was in